Welcome back, everyone, to Wisdom Unveiled.
Glad to be back.
You and I are diving deep into Iranian philosophy, specifically the conversations of Dr. Dinani and Dr. Larijani on Marifat.
Right.
This is episode 28 of 40, focusing on Rumi. And just a quick note before we start, this is all translated, so we're bound to miss some nuances in the translation, and we apologize for any discrepancies.
Yeah, it's always tricky with translation, trying to get the full depth of philosophical ideas across.
Okay, so let's jump into the theme of this episode. We're going to be exploring Rumi's idea that life isn't just about the destination, it's about the path you take to get there.
Exactly.
He poses this question: what is the path I took to arrive here?
And it's fascinating because he isn't talking about a literal path, is he? It's more of a metaphor for reflecting on our experiences and our choices, thinking about the things that we've overcome and how all of those things have shaped us.
So it's about, kind of looking back on how we got to a certain place. Maybe we accomplished something and we're really proud of it.
Right.
It's not just about that accomplishment. It's also about looking back and thinking, how did we get here? It's like savoring a whole meal, not just the dessert at the end.
That's a good analogy.
And Dr. Dinani actually adds to that, that reflecting on the past isn't about dwelling on it. It's more about using it as like a compass to inform where we are now and where we want to go in the future.
Right. It's about understanding how the past can guide us to live a more meaningful life now.
Yeah, so it's turning our past into like a guide, a compass, right? We're not stuck there, but we're using it to help us navigate.
Yeah, exactly. Now, another thing that Rumi recognizes is that no matter how wise or successful we become, sorrow is something that is going to be present in our lives.
Right.
Dr. Dinani and Dr. Larijani both talk about how sorrow is basically woven into the fabric of what it means to be human.
Yeah, this is a really interesting point, though, because Rumi didn't think we should just try to avoid sorrow, right?
Yeah.
He actually saw it as something that's important for us to grow, like an integral part of the human experience.
Yeah, he actually says that experiencing sadness allows us to truly appreciate the moments of happiness.
Yeah, have you ever noticed that?
Yeah, definitely. Think about it. Like after you go through something really hard, like a period of difficulty and you finally come out of it, often the simplest things feel so incredibly joyful.
It's like those difficult times make us appreciate the good times even more.
Yeah, exactly. And Dr. Larijani emphasizes that practicing gratitude, even during those difficult times, even when things are tough, is key to maintaining inner peace. It helps us to see the good even when we're surrounded by difficulty.
So finding that balance, recognizing and accepting both the good and the bad times.
Yeah.
Both the light and the shadow in life.
Exactly. And this leads into this concept of babaka, which Rumi talks about, which basically translates to the garden of permanence. It's kind of this realm that is free from all imperfections and all those desires that are fleeting and temporary.
Okay, the garden of permanence, it sounds amazing, but how do we get there? It can't be as easy as, hop it on a plane.
Well, this is where the idea of detachment comes in.
Okay.
Rumi believed that chasing after all those temporary fleeting desires that we have won't lead to any sort of lasting satisfaction.
Right.
We get so caught up in wanting more and more and more.
Right, we're always wanting the next thing.
That we miss out on what's right in front of us.
It's like we're on a treadmill and we just never get off, right? We never get to that point of contentment.
Exactly. Dr. Dinani actually says that constantly chasing after things just fuels this inner turmoil. He contrasts that with detachment, which is about shifting our focus from those fleeting pleasures to things that are going to bring us a more lasting fulfillment.
Okay, so it's not about suppressing our desires entirely, but about kind of understanding their nature and then making the conscious choice to focus on things that bring us a more genuine joy, a joy that lasts.
Right, exactly.
Okay, I'm with you.
And to really understand this a little bit deeper, we need to look at Rumi's hierarchy of existence. He lays out these 4 levels. He talks about God, he talks about the universal intellect, the soul, and then finally what he calls nature, which is the physical realm.
Okay, so God, intellect, soul, nature.
Interesting, but where do we fit into all of this?
Well, this is where it gets pretty insightful. Rumi positions the soul as a bridge between the intellect and the physical realm. That means that we have a choice. We can either get really caught up in those desires and those material desires, or we can use our intellect to sort of elevate our souls toward the divine.
So it's almost like we have this compass inside of us, and it can either point us towards, all the things that we want out in the world, those material things,
Right.
or it can guide us towards something that's bigger than ourselves, like a higher purpose.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it.
Okay.
And Dr. Larijani stresses that simply recognizing this choice is the first step toward actually breaking free from this cycle of desire and sorrow.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, so it's about realizing that true fulfillment comes from connecting to something larger than ourselves, something beyond our individual ego. And Rumi offers this really powerful image to illustrate this shift, he writes. Take 2 steps forward from the abode of desires, you'll descend into the sanctuary of majesty.
2 steps forward from the abode of desires. It's such a vivid image, but
Yeah.
what are those 2 steps? What are the steps that lead us from desire to this sanctuary?
Well, Dr. Dinani suggests that the first step is to recognize that chasing desires constantly isn't going to bring us real happiness. It's a cycle that just never ends.
Right. So we're realizing that there's got to be more to life than, just constantly wanting external things.
Exactly. The second step that Dr. Dinani explains is to detach from those desires and to do that through intellectual reflection. So it's not about suppressing them. It's more about understanding their nature and then consciously focusing on the things that truly enrich our lives.
Okay. So instead of just, going after everything that we want, we're using our intellect to guide us to make choices that are aligned with maybe a higher purpose.
Exactly. And this is where Dr. Larijani brings up this term mu'a, which he describes as basically this state of peace and solace that comes when we detach from those desires. It's a place where anxiety sort of loosens its grip and you find this deep sense of contentment.
So it sounds like we're not just escaping sorrow, but we're actually reaching a place of genuine well-being.
Exactly. And Dr. Dinani emphasizes the crucial role of the intellect in this process. And he argues that even if we achieve all of our desires without a nurtured intellect, true happiness can still elude us. It's like having a powerful engine, but you don't have a skilled driver. You might have all this power, but if you don't have the knowledge to handle it, you could end up completely lost.
Yeah, it makes sense. Without that intellectual clarity, without that guidance, we could be, chasing things that ultimately don't really serve us or might even, lead us down the wrong path.
Exactly. And this reminds me of this idea that Rumi talks about the jewel within, he writes, the jewel within the ocean of meaning. You can determine its worth if you reflect deeply. And Dr. Larijani points out that so often we know the value of material things, right? We know how much our car is worth or how much our house is worth, but we fail to really assess the worth of our own being.
It's like we get so caught up in, getting validation from the outside that we forget to look inside and recognize our own value.
Exactly. And Dr. Larijani actually ties this to the Quranic concept of hakutu, which basically emphasizes the importance of self-knowledge for living a righteous life. It's about understanding our true nature, our strengths, our weaknesses, what makes us tick.
It's about living in a way that is true to ourselves and not just about accumulating a bunch of knowledge.
Exactly. Now, to really highlight the dangers of these unchecked desires, Rumi uses this really powerful metaphor. He talks about a 7-headed dragon.
Okay, a dragon, that sounds intense. Tell me more.
Well, this dragon symbolizes our base desires, and each of the 7 heads represents a different one. So you have the 5 senses, you have harmful imagination, and then you have delusion.
So these are the things that can tempt us to go astray, to leave the path, to hinder our growth.
Exactly. And Rumi refers to these as paths to hellish states. He's really warning us about getting caught up in those fleeting pleasures and those harmful desires.
Yeah, it's easy to see how getting entangled in those things would really pull us away from, living a fulfilling life.
Right. And to contrast this, Rumi talks about the 8 gates of paradise, where he identifies the intellect as that 8th gate.
So the intellect is like the key to unlocking those gates and shutting off the pathways to those hellish states.
That's a great way to put it. So by nurturing our intellect, we can actually choose what's truly beneficial for us, and we can avoid the things that lead to suffering. We can nourish our minds with wisdom and use that as fuel to really propel ourselves toward a more fulfilling life.
So we're not just passively accepting these desires that we have, but we're actively engaging our intellect to really shape a life that aligns with, our values and what we want.
Exactly. And this is where Rumi's emphasis on self-knowledge and reflection become so crucial. It's about constantly examining our thoughts, our motivations, our actions, and making sure that we're staying on track. It's like a constant process of growth.
So we have this incredible power within us, our intellect,
Yeah.
that can help us to really navigate all the complexities of life and reach our full potential.
And Rumi's teachings really provide a roadmap for how we can unlock that power and create a life that is filled with purpose, meaning, and joy.
His insights are so profound, and I love the way he uses all these metaphors and imagery to really make these complex ideas accessible.
Yeah.
I'm so curious to hear more about what he has to say about love and how that connects to all of this. But first, what are some of the key takeaways that have resonated with you so far? Yeah.
You know, what really stands out to me is how important the journey itself is. It's not just about achieving those goals or reaching those destinations, but it's about being present in our experiences and using every experience as an opportunity for growth.
That's a powerful point, and I love how he really encourages us to embrace sorrow as a catalyst for understanding and appreciation.
Yeah.
Finding that balance between the light and the shadow, recognizing that both are part of the richness of life.
And Rumi's concept of mu'a, I think, is incredibly inspiring. It's a reminder that true peace comes from within and that we can cultivate that through conscious effort and reflection.
Those are all excellent points, and I think what's really fascinating is how all of these ideas, the journey embracing sorrow and mu'a, they all point back to the central role of the intellect in finding true fulfillment.
Exactly. And this actually leads us perfectly into Rumi's unique perspective on love. It's not the kind of love that you see in the movies or read about in romance novels. It's something much deeper. It's something much more profound. It's a love that transcends the individual ego and connects us to something so much greater than ourselves.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. Tell me more about Rumi's take on love.
Well, Dr. Larijani describes Rumi's love as a universal principle, like this force that binds all of creation together. And he says that it's not limited to romantic love. It encompasses everything. He actually compares it to a gate in Greek philosophy, that unconditional, all-encompassing love that goes beyond all boundaries.
So unconditional love that embraces everything and everyone, that's beautiful, but it also sounds really challenging in a world that often feels so divided. How do we even begin to cultivate that kind of love?
Dr. Dinani suggests that it all starts with ourself. It starts with cultivating self-love, self-acceptance, and self-compassion.
Yeah, that makes sense. You can't pour from an empty cup, right? If we're judging ourselves and criticizing ourselves constantly, how can we possibly offer genuine love to others?
Exactly. And Dr. Larijani adds that self-love isn't just about feeling good. It's also about recognizing our inherent worth and taking responsibility for our own well-being.
So it's about nurturing our physical, emotional, and spiritual health, creating this foundation of love and respect within.
Exactly. And as we cultivate genuine self-love, Dr. Dinani believes that it naturally extends outward to others and ultimately to all beings.
It's like a ripple effect. It starts with us, and it expands outward, touching and transforming everything around us.
That's a great analogy, and this actually reminds me of another point that Dr. Larijani makes. He stresses that Rumi wasn't just a contemplative poet, he was also a scholar, a jurist, a teacher. He was deeply engaged in the world around him.
So he wasn't just talking about transformation. He was actively trying to make a difference in people's lives.
Exactly. He lived his teachings, and Dr. Dinani even suggests that contemplation without action is incomplete. We need to embody that love in our deeds and how we treat others.
So our actions need to reflect our understanding. It's not enough to just think about it. We have to actually live it.
Precisely. It's about making those conscious choices that align with Rumi's wisdom, choosing love over fear, choosing generosity over greed, choosing connection over isolation, and letting those teachings guide us through every aspect of life.
It's remarkable how Rumi's teachings really connect these seemingly disparate ideas like self-love action, universal love. It all seems to be interconnected, contributing to a more fulfilling life.
And what's amazing is how his wisdom really transcends time and place, even though it's rooted in a specific tradition. His insights remain relevant for people from all walks of life.
Which is exactly why we continue to explore his teachings. They reveal these universal truths that speak to the human experience in a way that's both profound and deeply personal as we continue to learn about his perspective on love. I'm eager to see how it connects to these themes of self-discovery, growth, and meaning.
And I'm excited to share those insights with you. Rumi's teachings are like this wellspring of wisdom. Dr. Larijani actually shares a story about Rumi's insatiable thirst for knowledge that perfectly illustrates this point.
Oh, speaking of seeking, you mentioned that Dr. Larijani shares a story about Rumi's thirst for knowledge. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so this story really highlights Rumi's dedication to lifelong learning, and it involves this scholar who approaches Rumi for knowledge. But before sharing any wisdom, Rumi asks the scholar to empty his cup.
It's a powerful metaphor, isn't it? Letting go of preconceived notions and creating space for new understanding. You can only fill a cup when it's empty.
Exactly. And Dr. Dani explains that this emptying of the cup is essential for growth. It's about constantly questioning those assumptions, challenging our beliefs, and really expanding our understanding of the world.
Yeah, it's so easy to get stuck in our own limited perspectives, clinging to beliefs that maybe don't serve us anymore.
Exactly. We need to be open to new possibilities. Yeah, it really is. And this idea of, letting love guide our actions actually connects to another fascinating aspect of Rumi's teachings. This
Mhm.
idea that true knowledge isn't just about, intellectual understanding. It's about an actual transformative experience.
Right.
Dr. Larijani really emphasized this. He says that, genuine knowledge changes us from the inside out.
It's like the difference between reading a recipe for a cake and actually baking it.
Right.
You can have all the information about how to make it, you can have the ingredients, but until you actually go through that process and experience it, it's just theoretical knowledge.
Yeah, that's a really great analogy. And Dr. Dinani actually makes a similar comparison. He talks about the difference between, knowing about fire and then actually feeling its warmth.
Right.
You can study fire all you want, you can understand its properties, but until you experience that heat firsthand, you don't really grasp its essence.
So it's about moving beyond the theoretical to the experiential, allowing that knowledge to become a lived reality.
Exactly. And this actually leads to another really crucial point that Dr. Larijani brings up. Uh, he stresses the importance of seeking guidance from those who have already walked the path. We don't have to navigate this journey alone.
Right.
There are teachers, there are mentors, there are these wise beings who can illuminate the way for us and help us avoid some of those unnecessary pitfalls.
Like having a guide in a huge forest or something.
Right.
Someone who can point out the dangerous paths and lead us to the most beautiful spots.
Exactly. And Dr. Diani adds that, a true teacher doesn't just give you information, but they inspire you to awaken your own inner wisdom. They help you discover the truth for yourself.
It's about finding those people in our lives who can help us to see our own blind spots and challenge the beliefs that might be holding us back and encourage us to step into our full potential. And Rumi himself was actually a dedicated student, wasn't he?
Oh, he absolutely was. Dr. Larijani reminds us that Rumi was constantly seeking guidance from those he considered wiser. Even after he achieved fame and recognition, he never stopped learning. He never stopped seeking.
It's a really beautiful reminder that, this journey of self-discovery and spiritual growth, it never really ends. There's always more to learn. There's always more to explore.
Yeah, absolutely. And this brings us to another really powerful concept that Rumi explores, the interconnectedness of everything.
Okay.
Dr. Dinani describes it as kind of this cosmic dance where every action, every thought, every feeling creates these ripples that affect the entire web around us.
So we're not just these isolated individuals. We're part of this intricate web influencing and being influenced by everything and everyone around us.
Exactly. And Dr. Dinani says that, understanding this interconnectedness actually has a huge impact on how we live our lives.
Right.
It calls us to act with a lot more awareness, recognizing that our choices have consequences not just for ourselves, but for the whole.
It's like we're all holding a piece of this giant tapestry, and every thread that we weave affects the whole pattern, the whole design, the beauty, the strength of the entire fabric.
That's a really beautiful way to put it. And Dr. Larijani adds that recognizing our interdependence actually leads to a much deeper appreciation for life.
Right.
It allows us to, cultivate this gratitude for all the beauty and wonder that surrounds us, even in the midst of challenges.
Gratitude is so powerful for shifting our perspective.
Absolutely.
It allows us to focus on all that we do have, to appreciate the abundance and find that joy, even in the simplest things.
And it connects back to, Rumi's teachings on love, right? Because gratitude is an expression of that love, a recognition that we're all a part of something so much greater than ourselves.
As we come to the end of our deep dive into Rumi's world, I'm just so struck by the depth and the beauty of his teachings. It weaves together love, wisdom, and interconnectedness into such a meaningful tapestry.
Yeah. And his words, even though they were spoken, centuries ago, they still resonate with so much power and relevance today. They offer this timeless guidance for navigating all of life's complexities, for cultivating inner peace, and living in greater harmony with ourselves and with the world.
And it's a reminder that the journey itself is the destination, that challenges offer opportunities for growth, that silence can be a fertile ground for wisdom, and that love is that force that ultimately binds us all.
Yeah, and as we say goodbye for now, may Rumi's wisdom illuminate your path. May you find beauty in every moment, wonder in every encounter, and the courage to embrace the fullness of who you are.
Until we meet again on Wisdom Unveiled, keep seeking, keep exploring, and keep letting the beauty of what you love be what you do.